Let me ask you something uncomfortable. You have been working for 30, maybe 35 years, and somewhere along the way you made real sacrifices. You drove the older car, skipped the vacations, moved money into savings. Every single paycheck. And the whole time, you held onto this quiet promise, the one nobody wrote down but everybody understood. Work hard, put the money away, and when the time comes, the system will be there for you. The pension, Social Security, the retirement you spent decades building. Nobody is saying this clearly enough. Not on cable news, not in your financial advisor's office, and certainly not in any government press release. That promise is breaking down, right now, in real time. Not as a theoretical risk, but as a structural failure already, touching millions of people who followed every rule they were ever given. This video is not about manufacturing fear. Every number you are about to hear comes from official reports, government trustees, and independent financial research. And the picture those numbers paint together is one that anyone between 45 and 65 needs to understand before it is too late to respond. There is still time to act, but that window is closing faster than most people realize. And the difference between people who will be fine and people who will not is largely determined by how clearly they see what is actually happening right now. Stay with this. The next 20 minutes might be the most financially useful time you spend all year. Start with the United States, because the numbers here tell a story most people have never actually sat down with. The Congressional Budget Office, updating its projections as recently as February 2026, moved Social Security's main trust fund depletion date to 2032, 1 full year sooner than its previous estimate. The Social Security Administration's own 2025 Trustees Report had already placed the combined trust fund depletion date between 2033 and 2034, and that number keeps getting revised earlier, never later. What that date actually means is not that Social Security disappears overnight, but that the moment the trust fund reaches zero, the program can only pay out what it collects from payroll taxes in real time and based on current projections. That real time collection covers roughly 72 to 80 cents of every dollar in promised benefits, an automatic cut of 20 to 28%, landing on 69 million Americans. That is the outcome sitting at the end of this road. A current $2,000 monthly benefit shrinks to $1,600 or less, and that $400 difference carries a very different weight when you are 68 years old. When your rent has climbed, again, when your prescriptions cost twice what they did 5 years ago, and when your savings, whatever you manage to accumulate, are already being eaten by inflation you cannot negotiate with. The timing is what matters most for anyone watching this between the ages of 45 and 65. You will be in or approaching retirement when this depletion event arrives. This is not a problem the generation behind you inherits. This lands on you. State-level pensions add another layer of damage to the same story. The Equable Institute, one of the most respected non-partisan bodies tracking pension health in the country, reported that even after markets produced a reasonably solid run, the national shortfall for state and local pension plans still sat at approximately $1.27 trillion in 2025, down from $1.54 trillion the year before. The improvement sounds real until you understand what the underlying problem actually is. Far too many promises made with far too little money set aside to keep them, and no structural fix yet in place. Individual states tell an even sharper version of this story. Illinois carries roughly $144 billion in unfunded pension liabilities, the worst figure of any state in the nation, and its situation has deteriorated since 2023, according to the Illinois Policy Institute. New Jersey has an $82 billion shortfall, growing by $10 million per day, not per month. Per day, a rate of decay so consistent that researchers can set a calendar to it. Kentucky, Connecticut, and Mississippi round out a group of states where public sector workers, teachers, firefighters, and corrections officers were explicitly guaranteed pension income, and are now staring at systems that cannot deliver on those guarantees without an intervention nobody has yet been willing to make. And those are the funds people actually know about. Thousands of municipal and local pension plans operate with even less public scrutiny, and in many cases worse financial condition. To understand where we have ended up, you have to go back to what retirement actually looked like before the rules changed. Because most people watching this were never clearly told when or how those rules shifted through the 1970s and into the early 1980s. The standard retirement arrangement, America rested on what is called a defined benefit pension, a specific promise from your employer that carried real legal and financial weight. Work here for 30 years, retire at 62, and the company sends you a guaranteed monthly check for the rest of your life. You did not need to understand asset allocation. You did not need to manage an investment portfolio or worry about whether the market happened to crash in the year you planned to retire. The financial risk sat on the employer's side of the table, not yours. Then 1978 arrived, and buried inside the Revenue Act of that year was a small provision that would eventually dismantle that entire structure. That provision became the 401k, and its original purpose had nothing to do with retirement security for working Americans. It was designed as a supplemental tax benefit for corporate executives. What corporations recognized almost immediately was that this mechanism let them transfer entire burden of retirement risk off their balance sheets and onto their workers. Instead of promising a pension, an employer could now offer a tax-advantaged savings account, maybe match a portion of contributions, and then step back, whatever the worker ended up with after decades of investment decisions they were rarely equipped to make. That became their retirement. By the 1990s, defined benefit pensions were being frozen or terminated across the private sector at a pace that was genuinely breathtaking. And by the 2000s, the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis had documented this transition as essentially complete for large portions of the American workforce. Today, fewer than 15% of private sector workers have access to a defined benefit pension, meaning the overwhelming majority now carry the full weight of retirement risk on their own shoulders. Armed with a 401k, maybe an IRA, and the hope that they made reasonable decisions with money they were never fully taught how to manage. The gap between what that system produces and what people actually need is where the real damage shows up. Northwestern Mutual S2026 survey found that Americans now believe they need $1.46 million to retire comfortably, a number that climbed by $200,000 in just 1 year. And the Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances puts the median retirement savings for all American families at $87,000. The average sits higher at $333,940. But that figure gets dragged upward by a relatively small number of people with very large balances, and the median tells the more honest story for Americans aged 55 to 64. The people closest to retirement, median savings land around $185,000, against a target that has now crossed $1.46 million. That gap does not close through optimism alone. Across the Atlantic, the British picture runs parallel. Royal London published research in early 2025 showing the average UK worker faces a £12,000 annual retirement income shortfall relative to expectations. And a September 2025 survey found that only 21% of UK employees feel confident their pension pot will actually last through retirement. UK savings confidence data from October 2025 described overall confidence as critically low, with a proportion of workers struggling to manage day-to-day financial obligations climbing from 31% in 2024 to 35% in 2025. 2 different countries, 2 different systems, 1 direction of travel. There is a third force working against your retirement that never appears on any account statement and never generates a headline. And it operates with a patience that makes it all the more destructive at a 3% annual inflation rate, which runs below where the US economy spent much of the last several years. Purchasing power gets cut roughly in half over 24 years. Retire at 62, live to 86, which is an increasingly realistic lifespan for Americans today. And the dollar you hold on your first day of retirement buys you approximately 50 cents worth of goods and services on your last. The income that feels comfortable at 62 starts feeling tight at 76. And genuinely painful at 86. None of that requires a financial crisis or a market collapse. It just requires time and a number as modest as 3% compounding quietly in the wrong direction. The 2026 Social Security cost of living adjustment, projected at roughly 2.7 to 2.8%, sounds like protection against exactly this problem. But here is where the mechanism falls apart. That adjustment was calculated using inflation data from mid-2025, meaning it already reflects yesterday's prices rather than today's. Economists are flagging that new tariff pressures working through the supply chain in 2026 are likely pushing real costs higher than that adjustment accounts for. The raise arrives already behind. The structural problem runs deeper than the timing. Social Security's cost of living adjustments are calculated using the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners, a measure built around spending patterns that retirees simply do not match. Retirees spend disproportionately more on healthcare and housing, the 2 categories that have inflated faster and more persistently than the overall index for decades. Proposals to replace that measure with CPIE, the Consumer Price Index for the elderly, which would better reflect actual retiree spending, have existed for years and remain unimplemented. The political calculation apparently never quite working out in favor of the people it would protect. Healthcare costs deepen this problem in ways that most retirement projections dramatically underestimate. Long-term care, which a significant percentage of people over 65 will require at some point, now carries an average annual cost exceeding $100,000 for a private nursing facility room in many US markets. And Medicare covers almost none of it. Medicaid only engages after a person has spent down essentially all of their assets, meaning the financial protection most people assume exists for long-term care is not available until everything else is already gone. Fidelity's estimates place total out of pocket healthcare costs for the average retired couple at approximately $300,000 in today's dollars, above and beyond housing, food, transportation, and every other part of life they plan to fund. What keeps millions of people from acting on all of this is not stupidity. And it is not laziness either. The actual mechanism is a well-documented feature of human cognition called temporal discounting, which describes the brain's built-in tendency to weight present sacrifice far more heavily than future reward. The money you would redirect toward retirement savings today represents an immediate concrete loss. The benefit of having it at 70 sits 15 or 20 years away and registers as genuinely abstract. And the brain is not built to feel the urgency of abstract consequences with the same force. It feels immediate ones. The financial industry has not helped close that gap. The 401k world is filled with complexity, expense ratio fees that rarely get explained clearly, fund options that most participants do not fully understand, and target date funds that frequently underperform their benchmarks after costs are factored in. None of that encouraged people to engage with the problem honestly, which is partly how a MetLife study published in February 2026 arrived at findings this striking. 46% of pre-retirees already expect to cut spending because they fear running out of money, and 44% of current retirees have already made those cuts. Around 60% of both groups admitted they underestimated how much they actually needed to save. These are not careless people. They trusted a system that was being quietly restructured around them, followed the advice they were given, and are now confronting the gap between what that system promised and what it actually delivers. That 2025 Allianz Life Annual Retirement Study finding deserves to sit with you for a moment. 64% of Americans say they fear running out of money more than they fear death. And considering that death has been the defining human fear for most of recorded history, that number reflects just how thoroughly the retirement system has failed at its most basic job, which was delivering security. The British system followed a different road from the American one, and for a long time, it looked like a more protective model. But the destination is converging in ways that anyone relying on UK state pension income needs to understand clearly. The state pension triple lock, which guarantees annual pension increases equal to the highest of inflation, wage growth, or 2.5%, delivered real results in April 2026, when over 12 million pensioners received a £575 increase to their state pension payments. Those headline figures genuinely help people at the lower end of the income spectrum, and dismissing the triple lock's benefits entirely would be inaccurate. But the Institute for Fiscal Studies concluded in October 2025 that the same policy creates unpredictable public spending commitments and channels disproportionate benefit toward better off pensioners, and with the UK now spending £174.9 billion on pensioner benefits in the 2025-26 fiscal year, 5.8% of GDP, the political and fiscal pressure to water it down, freeze it, or phase it out entirely has become louder and more organised each year. Serious political voices in the UK are now arguing for scrapping the triple lock altogether, and they are not fringe voices making the argument quietly. Meanwhile, 26.1 million Britons face a retirement income shortfall if the state pension system undergoes any meaningful reform, and only 21% of UK workers report confidence that their retirement income will hold up. The Guardian's late 2025 reporting on the European pension picture found that across multiple EU member states, pension value as a percentage of average salary is set to decline to 47% from 2031 onward, following legislation passed in late 2025. Whether you are based in the United States or the United Kingdom, whether your money sits in a 401k or a SIP, whether you are counting on Social Security or the state pension, the structural math underpinning those systems has moved in the same direction. Worse, and with no credible fix yet enacted, none of what this video has covered leads to the conclusion that retirement is finished for the people watching it. What it does establish is that the passive approach, the system will handle it, has become a genuinely dangerous bet. And the moves available to someone between 45 and 65 right now are meaningfully different from the moves available in 5 years. Start with your number and start with honesty about it. The $1.46 million figure from Northwestern Mutual 2026 survey is not arbitrary. The underlying math comes from the 4% withdrawal rule, which says a $1 million portfolio supports roughly $40,000 In annual withdrawals, many financial planners have now shifted toward recommending a 3 to 3.5% withdrawal rate instead, accounting for longer lifespans and the sequence of returns risk that hits people who retire into a down market. Run your own version of this calculation. Be honest about your actual expected annual spending and treat the result as the real target, not a rough guess. For anyone between 60 and 63 specifically, the Secure 2.0 Act changes that took effect in 2025 created what are called supercatch up contributions, an option to contribute up to $11,250 in catch, up contributions on top of the standard $23,500 $401K limit. That combined contribution potential of nearly $35,000 annually in a tax advantaged account is a real opportunity, and a surprising number of people in that exact bracket are not using it. Stop treating Social Security as a fixed, reliable income line in your retirement plan and stress. Test your numbers against the 20 to 28% benefit cut scenario that the current trust fund trajectory produces. That cut is not guaranteed to happen, and legislative intervention could change the outcome. But any retirement plan that only works if 100% of projected Social Security benefits arrive on schedule and never change has a single point of failure sitting inside a system with a documented and worsening funding problem. Run the scenario. Know what your cash flow looks like if the check comes in at 75 cents on the dollar. Healthcare costs deserve their own budget line, and that line needs to be realistic. Fidelity $300,000 estimate for average retired couple out pocket healthcare costs in today's dollars does not include long-term care, which carries average annual costs above $100,000 in many markets, and which Medicare largely does not cover. Understanding what Medicare actually covers versus what it leaves exposed is not optional at this stage. It is foundational planning. The broader shift worth making is moving from thinking about retirement as a savings target to thinking about it as an income architecture. People who hold up well through a pension crisis are rarely those with the single largest savings balance. They tend to be the ones with multiple income streams, a pension or partial pension, Social Security even at a reduced rate, dividend income, rental income, part-time work they chose rather than resorted to. Resilience in retirement comes from spreading income across sources, not from one account large enough to absorb every possible outcome. And for anyone with a public sector pension, the funding ratio of your state's pension system is public information and worth knowing. Illinois, New Jersey, Kentucky, Connecticut, and Mississippi all carry funding ratios below 60%, meaning less than 60 cents exist in assets for every dollar of promised benefits and a conversation with a fee only fiduciary financial advisor about what benefit restructuring or cuts could mean for your specific situation is not a worst-case exercise. It is reasonable planning, given what the numbers already show. Here is what this video has actually shown. Social Security's combined trust fund is now projected to run dry between 2032 and 2034, with automatic benefit cuts of 20 to 28%. As the outcome, state and local pension plans carry a national shortfall of $1.27 trillion, with several states in genuine structural crisis. The shift from defined benefit pensions to individual 401k accounts transferred the entire burden of retirement risk onto workers who were never adequately prepared to carry it. And the median American family heading toward retirement has saved $87,000 against a target that now exceeds $1.46 million. Inflation quietly cuts purchasing power in half over 24 years. Healthcare costs in retirement routinely run to $300,000 and above before long. Term care enters the picture, and 64 percent of Americans now say running out of money in old age frightens them more than dying. None of that means your retirement is finished. What it means is that seeing the problem clearly and acting on what you can still control is no longer optional for anyone in this age group. The difference between people who come through this period intact and people who do not will be determined largely by how honestly they assessed the situation and how early they started responding to it. You watch this video, and that already puts you ahead of most people your age who have not yet looked directly at these numbers. The window has not closed. Work your number, stress test your plan, build your income streams, and if you are not sure where to begin, find a fee-only fiduciary advisor, not someone earning a commission on what they sell you, but someone whose financial interest runs in the same direction as yours. If this video added something to how you think about your retirement, the like button genuinely helps more people find this content who need to hear it. Subscribe if you want. To stay ahead of what is coming, drop a comment below. Are you on track? Are you worried? And what part of this hits closest to home for you personally? See you in the next one.